Hey bookish besties, it's Rachel. Today we're going to be talking about my unpopular opinions, and so I don't know, this probably isn't a good thing to do for my channel that only has like 30 subscribers, because then now I'm just gonna lose them all probably, but whatever, it's fine. Obviously, these are just my opinions. I know that they are unpopular, hence why they're in the video. Please don't throw rotten internet fruit at me. I'm just doing my thing, okay? And I'm sure you have unpopular opinions too that I think suck. Everyone has opinions that somebody else thinks sucks. It's a really nice part about life, you know? We all disagree. It's fine. I'm just gonna roll right into our little discussion, see if you guys have any like that you agree with, any that you like hard disagree with, in which case don't throw rotten fruit at me, but you can debate with me in the comments. That's fun. All in good fun. First thing, I don't care about dragons. I tried to read Aragon as a kid. I got halfway through it and I said no. I don't care about Game of Thrones. I think that I've got a thing with high fantasy in general, because I feel like with a lot of high fantasy, the only really magical stuff that's happening that's noticeable, or notable I should say, is usually like the dragons. I need a witch. I need a witch storyline. I prefer more urban fantasy, so that's probably why I don't feel attached to dragons. So the way that they were using like Harry Potter, though, like I liked that. Like they would make a meaningful appearance now and then. That was cool. Other than that, I don't really care about them. Next one. So some people will totally agree with me on this though. I love a slow build. I don't care if it's slow most of the time. It's just, it kind of depends on how well it's done. But if it's like a world building that I think is really interesting, then I love a slow build. A lot of people crap on Stephanie Meyer for a variety of reasons. One thing I will not take ever is the host slander. And sometimes even people that liked that book, though, they're like, oh, after you get through the first 100 pages, it's fine. I loved the first 100 pages. I loved learning about the world and about like our main character and stuff like that. So, like I said, depends on how it's done. But for the most part, I love a gradual build, especially with science fiction. It's good stuff. Okay, this is the part where people start throwing things at me. Even if you were tempted by dragons, it was only a temptation. Now, please sit on your hands. But like, I don't care about enemies to lovers. I don't really care about tropes in general. I don't really understand the obsession with tropes and archetypes. That's what they're called. They're called archetypes. They don't matter to me. What does matter to me is what's different about a story. Furthermore, a lot of y'all are obsessed with enemies to lovers, and then you're talking about books, and it's like, I read that book. It's not enemies to lovers. Like, y'all have a really weird definition of what enemies to lovers is. Just because you have two people that like weren't friends with each other does not make it enemies to lovers, in my opinion. Okay, there has to be like a major force that is keeping them separated, or they actually dislike each other. It can't just be to me like, oh, well, I mean, I don't like that guy because he said this to my ex-boyfriend that one time. Like, I don't feel like that's necessarily that makes him an enemy, unless it is to the main character. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because, even if someone like mildly dislikes somebody, or they're just kind of annoyed by somebody, to me that's also not really enemies to lovers. But I don't know, maybe it's me, maybe I'm the problem, maybe I don't know what enemies to lovers is, but I just think that y'all got it wrong. I will say the only trope that will ever get my attention is like an opposites attract moment, which some of you might argue with me and say that that's enemies to lovers, but not necessarily. It just kind of depends. But yeah, like a grumpy sunshine moment, I think that that's really cute. I love stuff like that. I think it's adorable. But like, if we're looking at, you know, that sort of trope, Nevermore by Kelly Cree, whatever, Varen and Isabel, where we have like super broody goth boy and then super popular cheerleader. I think that that's so freaking cute. I don't know why I think it's so cute, but I do. So that's like the only one. But like in general, tropes don't do anything for me. I don't hate most tropes. I don't love most tropes. It depends on the author. It depends on the story. That's the stuff I really care about. I did talk to you guys already about how I don't really do a lot of high fantasy. I also don't do a lot of historical fiction. And here's the thing with this one. I don't even know if it's an unpopular opinion. I feel like a lot of it's super powerful, but sometimes it can be too slow, which contradicts what I said earlier. I'm good with really slow science fiction. I'm not good with really slow historical fiction. A lot of times, if a historical fiction is super slow, it means that the author did way too much freaking research on their subject and are now, instead of giving me the plot, telling me exactly how this wagon from 1872 was built, and I kind of don't care. Like, I don't know. Historical fiction, a lot of it is really, really sad too. And I'm kind of past the point in my life that I want to read sad things. Like, I did that as a teenager because, like most teenagers, I was very morbid. I think a lot of teenagers are morbid. And I wanted to read sad stuff, so I read more historical stuff, and just not anymore. I guess in general, I don't like to read sad books. And I think that, that's something that I think people would be pretty 50-50 on. Like, some of you are like, you love the catharsis of reading a sad book. Like, you need to read a little life to get a lot of, emotion out of you that maybe has been bottled up. You need a good cry. But some of us already cry all the time, so I don't really need to pick up a book to get a good cry. So I don't really like those. And as a result, I don't always care about historical fiction. Slow building historical fiction to me is different from slow building and everything else. Like, it's too slow. Now I have some specifics on my list too. This list is completely random, and I feel like I probably could have organized this into an order that made sense, but I did not. But getting into some specifics, I DNF'd Angels and Demons by Dan Brown, and I did that at a time where I never DNF'd books. I did not really like it. It was so strong at first. I thought I was going to like it, but then it just got, like, the thing with the cardinals, it was very predictable, repetitive, and I just didn't like his writing style. So yeah, DNF'd that. Don't care about Dan Brown. Sorry. No interest in reading any of his other stuff. The other one that I read that was popular that I didn't like was Outlander. I know. I didn't like it. So it's got that historical fiction slowness to it. Like, I really appreciate the amount of research that the author put into it, but it was too slow. And a lot of the problematic scenes distracted me from what's important. It's also very pantsed. I prefer books that are more strongly plotted. But yeah, I'm not an Outlander girl. I don't like it. But then on the flip side, something I love that other people don't like, I still like Twilight. I don't care. I know I just defended the host in this video, but I also do really like Twilight. I think that people hate on it a little bit unnecessarily. I think that was the time where we started thinking carefully about what type of relationships we were romanticizing. But I think something that I think a lot of people forget is that Edward is a literal vampire. Teenage me understood that Edward watching me in my sleep was fine because he's a creepy vampire. That's what he does. But like any other man, no. I don't know. I think part of the criticism was I don't think that people expected teenagers to actually have more than 5 brain cells when they were reading. That's just an idea. I also think that people don't read Bella accurately at all. I think that Stephanie nails point of view. I think that point of view is probably her best thing other than her dialogue. I think she has great dialogue as well. But people act like Bella has like no personality and no interests. I mean, we get the thing about Renee in Midnight Sun. That kind of helps it make a little bit more sense. But like, as far as her not having interests, people are missing an extremely important literary piece of irony in this book. Her hobby is cooking. That's her hobby. She loves to watch Emerald. She loves to cook. She loves to cook for Charlie. And that's so ironic because if you know how Twilight ends, just saying, I don't think people read her accurately. And frankly, I think that if Edward was like a really like normal guy and not a creepy vampire, like why would I read it? Like if I want to read a vampire book, I need a broody, creepy man that I would never date in real life, but only in the context of the story. I don't know. Also, on the same kind of role here, obviously, I'm okay with PC Cast, obviously. And so, a lot of people hate on her. People hate on her for a lot of different reasons. Some of them, like, okay, that's your preference, but some of them kind of don't make sense to me. I mean, some people don't like the length of her House of Night series. It was actually supposed to be like 5 or 6 bigger books, but then her publisher didn't want them to do that. So we have like 12 House of Night books. So there's that. There's all kinds of different little reasons that I don't really agree with. I think one thing that's kind of weird that nobody thinks about is like the House of Night books is co-authored by her with her daughter Kristen. And like, I don't know, people talk about the way that POC are portrayed in this story. And I think a lot of times people are like, well, what is this white woman trying to do writing about this anyway? Her daughter literally is like mixed race. Like her daughter is not like fully just white, okay? Like I'm pretty sure she's half black. And so, I don't know, I think it's a little strange that I feel like on normal circumstances, we would never tell a person of color how to write other people of color. But we do it with this series because one of the co-authors is white. I don't know about that one. That one's a little odd. I will say, I'm not the biggest fan anymore of her Tales of a New World books. I thought that they got kind of worse as they went, but in general, do I think that she deserves the hate that she gets? No. And I think a lot of people were in the habit of hate reading her books, so people act like they're just like so insufferable, but then it's like, okay, but if you're really suffering, why are you still reading this? Like, you hated this book from this book series from book 2. Why are you on book 7? Like, self-care. Another specific unpopular opinion, so very specific here. I don't like the book The Gunslinger by Stephen King, and dude bros, I hear you. I know that you're watching this. I know that you are already typing the comment that says that the other books get better. I've gotten this comment before. Every dude bro that loves the Dark Tower books has told me this. And I'm sorry, but I don't care. I really don't care. I hated The Gunslinger so much that I decided that I didn't care anymore and that I didn't want to go through with it. I didn't want to wait for it to get better. I did not care. I don't even care if it gets better in book 2. I don't care. I don't like it. I like Stephen King in general as a person, and I like a lot of his books. I don't like that one. And that should be okay, right? I think it's fine. It's not the end of the world that I don't like The Gunslinger. If we're getting into some literary hot takes, I have a couple of those too. I don't really care for Robert Frost. That one can bother people sometimes. If you, I don't know, one example of, I think, why I don't like him is I kind of wonder, so like you have the Two Roads poem. Oh my God, what's it called? I don't really care about this poem, but it's the one where like you pick the path less chosen and it makes all the difference. You know, some people argue that he was being sarcastic in that poem, and I kind of wonder if the tone that he writes in is kind of like gives me weird vibes, and that's why I don't like it. Like, I feel like the way that he writes makes me feel like I'm being nagged on, so maybe he was supposed to be sarcastic, maybe he wasn't trying to be sarcastic. Either way, it is so ambiguous, and I just don't care for it, so I'm not trying to figure it out. Now this one, everyone hold on to your weaves, everyone hold on to your wigs. Grab a chair for moral support, grip your desk, grip your laptop, not too hard, don't break it. But I don't like Jane Austen that much. I said it. I don't really like it. I will give her some serious props though. Pride and Prejudice is so funny. I think that she can write humor really well. I think I would have liked her work better if I had not discovered the Brontes first. Charlotte Bronte actually criticized Jane Austen when she was alive, and if you don't know, Charlotte Bronte is like one of my literary heroes. I love all of her work. The only thing I haven't read yet by her is Shirley. But she didn't like Jane Austen, and she said that Jane Austen's work is like this perfectly cultivated garden, but literature should be full of weeds. It should be lush and passionate and ugly and everything. And I get that. I think that Jane Austen, the way that she writes it, is not for me. I would rather trip through Charlotte Bronte's weed garden than her beautiful garden. It's just a preference. And kind of like, you know how some people get really irritated at like certain bands or artists that exist for no reason? I feel like a lot of the time it has nothing to do with the band or the artist. It has to do with the fan base. I don't know. Sometimes the Jane Austen girlies can get a little weird. Like, I had this one girl in one of my lit classes that said that Jane Austen was edgy because she mentioned a brothel in one of her books. And I mentioned this to my best friend, and he said, that's like saying, I saw Jane Austen eating a salad one time. She wants to be a vegetarian. We have some of that energy sometimes with the Austen girlies, which kind of gets on my nerves and isn't helping. So, and for the record, I have read more than Pride and Prejudice. I've read Northanger Abbey, which I started liking at first, and then we just got emotionless again, and I didn't like it. I read the Lady Susan short story, and here's the thing. I want to read Emma because Clueless is so close to my heart that I think that I might like Emma. I think that I think part of it is I'm going into it with the right expectations. I think it's supposed to be very lighthearted. So, we'll see. Another opinion. Young adult is fine. It's fine. And it's not getting worse. You know what's happening? You're getting old. That's all it is. I don't read as much YA anymore. I don't really like it quite as much. It doesn't speak to me the same way. And you know why? It's because I'm getting old. I'm 27 years old. It might not stick with me forever. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong with you if you're 27 or older and you're still reading YA, because I feel like any of us can, you know, if we're in the mood or the right headspace, or if it's what we prefer. I think that when we get into the mind of those young characters, it can take us back to when we were younger as well. So, like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that at all. And I think that there's a lot of really great YA still to this day. I just don't think that, I don't know. I just think that people crap on it too much just for the heck of it, when 99% of the time, it's because you're getting older. Just saying. Sorry. You look great, by the way. Great moisturizer. I may be calling you old, but girl, you fabulous. Okay, whatever. The only other one I had written down, is that I really don't like the book cover trends of today. I don't think that it needs to be what they were before. Like, I don't think that every YA book needs to have girls in ball gowns, for example. Just like, you know, when appropriate, I think that a ball gown is nice. I don't know. YA is doing lots of fun fonts, and like, I don't know. I just don't like I don't like the whole purpose of a cover to be a font. You know, I want a picture on it, and I think that a lot of the kind of like a lot of the graphic design that's like super colorful and supposed to be really eye catching, it doesn't do a whole lot for me either. So, yeah, I don't know if that's unpopular or not. Do you guys like book covers today? I don't like book covers very much today. I feel like in general, I do have some books that like I really, really love that maybe less people have heard of, or I just don't really see the authors being spoken of. So maybe I'll do a video sometime of like unusual book recommendations where I can talk about that. So that way I'm not just rambling about every single obscure book I've ever read that I think that you should read. That could be a separate thing. But yeah, these are my unpopular opinions. Feel free to unsubscribe. And don't take it personally, because like I don't really, this is... It's like what Ray Bradbury says in Zen and the Art of Writing. Like, this is our taste in gorillas and aliens and stuff. Like, this doesn't matter. Like, literature is fun. Books are fun. Reading is fun. And we all have different preferences. So don't feel like, oh, I just crapped on every single thing that you love. That would be kind of awful, and I'm really sorry if that's what happened. But, like, even if I crapped on everything that you love, that doesn't mean I'm crapping on you. So... yeah, don't take that personally. I don't take videos like this personally. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree. Sometimes I disagree like really bad and I just kind of don't comment, or I might just start like a little discussion. So I implore you to do the same. I hope that everyone is doing well, and thanks for watching again. Bye!